Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what happened today on yet another phenomenal day for Tesla, very much outperforming the market. And I'll give you my thoughts moving forward and what I personally think you can potentially expect moving forward as well, and all that good stuff. I got some pretty interesting stuff to share today. So, again, as usual, we'll see what happens. I'm just giving you my personal opinion and my personal views and thoughts. Again, I could be wrong, could be right, could be somewhere in the middle. Nobody knows for sure. We're all really just doing our best in this game and trying to understand what the hell's going to happen next. But nonetheless, Tesla closing the day up a beautiful 5% or just under 5%, closing at pretty much $250 on the spot, which is pretty damn impressive. Also, if I haven't mentioned it, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, my membership section on YouTube is live. That link is below in the description of the video, where I share intraday thoughts, post updates, etc. Every single day the market is open. For just $2.99 a month or $5, you get access to all of that. So like Tesla updates, etc., but also NVIDIA daily updates as well. But jumping into it, like I said, Tesla, beautiful day today. Now, let's talk about this, right? So there's a few things I want to talk about. Where do I want to start is the question. Let's start on this kind of recent price action, if you will, that we are in. So like I said, we are in this technically, rising channel, rising wedge, right? The thing about this rising channel, rising wedge, or whatever, is the confusing thing, I guess, for me personally, is the fact that the bottom trend line is the one that is, I have confidence in, right? This bottom trend line is very, very crucial. It's held, it's showed validity many, many times. And I've said this before, but the top trend line is where it feels like there's been a little bit less validity, right? Was it a wedge that we technically just broke out of, right? Because you can argue the fact that, we were in a wedge, and then we broke out of it on, what was this, Thursday, but then we went back into it, but then we broke out of it again. It's like, okay, well, we're kind of going up and down through this line of this top wedge, of the line of the top wedge. Am I saying that right? The top of the wedge, the line that's the top of the wedge, over and over and over, right? When I see these kind of things, it makes me think, maybe this isn't the pattern that we're actually in. Because, I don't like seeing charts. I don't like seeing stocks go up and down just like it's nothing almost through what should be, in theory, strong, in this case, potential resistance, right? Or, the fact that we went below it or above it should be support, but then we went below. So I don't like to see that. So what I see instead now is that, it's probably closer to a rising channel, which in that case, this can move a little bit higher, right? Closer to even maybe 255, even as early as tomorrow. Like, that has potential, right? But again, I want to make this clear. There's some very important caveats to mention, right? And this is where things are getting a little bit interesting. So we're above the 245 level. Like I said, 245 was important, right? I want to make this also really clear. Tesla is still bullish. It still looks really solid. Short term, it looks very powerful. Like, this is not a stock that, you should be just shorting and closing your eyes and hoping for the best, unless, obviously, maybe you'll be right. But as of right now, short term and even potentially medium term, it still looks really strong. But check this out. This is where things are a little bit interesting, right? Let's look back at history, right? Because stocks tend to have a behavior, right? Stocks have behavior. They move similarly, like they have in the past, and obviously not literally identically, but the point is the behavior tends to be very similar. So let's look at some examples that were very similar in this kind of overall situation and behavior, and see what happened before. One of which was this situation all the way back here. Remember, all the way back here in, what is this? Pretty much exactly a year ago, actually, literally almost a year ago. We did a similar situation, right? Where Tesla had a massive, massive run up, and then it obviously came down, and then it rallied off of that, right? So again, similar to what we did here, right? Let's zoom out a little bit. This run up right here was literally this run up right here. Then we had a fallback, then we had a fallback, and then we had a rally. And now we're currently in this rally. So we're currently pretty much doing this right here. This situation is what we're currently doing. Now, the reason I bring this up, and there's two examples of this one being the second one, is for this. So if you take the Fibonacci from this, so we had this massive rally, right? So anyway, so you take the Fibonacci from this high and you bring it to the low that occurred. You can see Tesla, where did it top at, right? It topped at pretty much right around that 0.786 level, which is back then around that 280 level, right? Cool, interesting. So massive rally, correction from that rally, and then another decent rally as well, rejected at 280, and then ultimately actually went lower. Okay, interesting. Let's take a look at a similar example here. Also, nice little rally. And then where did, it had a fall, right? So this is right after that. So we had the rally and then it fell. Cool, made a lower low. And then it had a nice rally post that low as well. And where did this retrace to, right? I believe it was from here, if I'm mistaken, if I measure it correctly. No, I believe it was from here. Yeah, it's from this one here, right? And from here, you can see from this, little rally here, and then it went lower, and then it ultimately went back up as well. Ultimately, it came up to that 0.786 range once again, right? And then it went even lower again. Now, obviously, this could be different. This can be one of those instances where Tesla does move differently. That is always a possibility, but it's just worth bearing in mind, right? That this is a potential situation. And keep in mind, this move right here, you can see is so similar to the move that we're seeing over here, right? It also had this kind of, nice little rally, bit of a consolidation, almost arguably even set up a similar looking rising wedge that we set up just recently over here, right? And then it moved up even higher, which is kind of where we are right now. Like we're pretty much, assuming this goes according to what historically Tesla has done, we're pretty much right around this range right here. Now, obviously, if we break above that level, that'll be really important. So let's take a look at this example as well, right? Tesla, obviously massive rally, correction, and now we're rallying once again, which again, still has potentials of being a dead cat. Let's go ahead and measure it. And you can see we're pretty damn close. We're like literally a few dollars away from that 786 range. Once again, that Tesla has retraced to many times in very similar fashion, only to fall back down. Every single time so far, it's been a lower low. It's actually fell even lower. So in this case, assuming it like fully repeats it, it would actually go even lower than 180. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm not guaranteeing that's going to happen. I'm not, promising that's going to happen. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure if that's going to happen. But what is interesting is the fact that we are very damn close to that 786 retracement level. So this to me is going to be actually a very crucial level, right? If we can break above this level and start closing well above it, and you're not showing any real signs of wanting to fall back under, that's where things will get a little bit more promising. But this is a pretty damn crucial level coming up, and it also happens to line up pretty well, or at least roughly pretty well, with what could be the top of this rising channel that we're in, give or take, of course. So this is where things are going to get really interesting, in my opinion. So I personally am watching for this level very, very carefully. If I start seeing issues around this level on my smaller account where I am holding shares, I will most likely begin selling some, maybe a month to 2 months out cover calls on those shares. But as of right now, I'm not selling cover calls on my smaller account because I'm very conservative with that account. But just thought I'd mention this. This is probably the main thing to take away from today's video. Just, watch for this situation to unfold and, just see how it goes, right? See what happens with it. And, we'll see if it finally gets a rejection from there like it has in the past. Or does it just blast through that? And then we officially now break that overall kind of trend that Tesla has been setting. And then from there, in my opinion, any dip from there will be viable. Because again, regardless of whether we stop here and move down, or we go up higher and then move down, ultimately Tesla will move down. It's not going to only go up in a straight line, because rising channels, right? The way they work as well, obviously, while you're within it, you continue rising. At some point, you stop rising because you can't just keep going up forever and ever and ever, and then you get that small correction. So once we fall out of this channel, which obviously is still some more work to do. For instance, if we go below 230, I think we'll probably fall out of this channel. If that, in theory happens again, Tesla will, of course, begin its correction. But until then, it's bullish, and it's going to continue moving upwards until it falls out of the channel, which is for sure, in my opinion at least, the bottom of this channel, this green line, which is, has a lot of confidence. It's the top line in these rising channels that is a little bit more peculiar in terms of the positioning of it. So again, take the top line. I've said this before with a bit of a grain of salt. The bottom one is the one you really want to pay attention to, in my opinion. So that's kind of the way and the main thing I'm personally looking at for Tesla. When it comes to daily though, again, I want to make this clear, it is obviously overbought, right? The bands, you can see it's at the second yellow line. Obviously, if it gets to the red line, that's where it gets really overbought, which will be closer to the 260s. That's what it'll get like extremely overbought. And usually Tesla doesn't get there and doesn't stay there for long, other than, of course, short squeezes. Like, for instance, the one we had over here was obviously a short squeeze, just kept pretty much rocketing up day after day after day. Naturally, you have these exceptions. Nothing is perfect. But you can see more often than not, when it gets into these overbought territories, right, it doesn't stay there for all that long. It almost always retraces at the very least back to the mean, right? The mean line right here, which is like right in the middle, or sometimes even gets into the opposite end of the spectrum, oversold territory. So just keep that in mind, right? Just, I just want to make that very clear. It's a very phenomenal rally, but a lot of my indicators are screaming that it is now overbought. Doesn't mean it has to crash tomorrow or anything like that. It's just the risk reward for me personally up here is starting to get not as rewarding until I at least see some pullback, and I at least see about the 230s hold, like 232, 233. That to me right now, currently as it stands in this channel, is the optimal range to re-enter Tesla for a long play, as long as, of course, that general level holds. That's just the way I'm looking at it. But you can see RSI, which I have it on a very aggressive setting, overbought as well, setting up actually a bearish divergence where the stock made a higher high, RSI is making a lower high, right? It looks a little bit more obvious in the 4 hour, right? You can see in the 4 hour, same idea, right? Making a fresh higher high, while the RSI making a, lower high. So, it is what it is, right? Making a little bit of a bearish divergence. Obviously, these take time to play out, but don't forget my RSI is also in a much more aggressive state or setting. So I don't expect it to take as long as, for instance, a regular RSI may take to play out. But we'll see. We'll see. Nonetheless, stochastic, you can see, right? Still bullish. Still looks pretty good. Again, Tesla's still bullish. I want to make that clear. I don't see it crashing or anything like that. It's just more of the risk reward up here to me is starting to get less favorable because, a lot of my indicators are starting to flash that it is, at least short term, very, very overbought. And, some form of cool off will happen probably sooner than later. Again, in my opinion, could be wrong, but ultimately, nonetheless, Tesla, as long as it's in this channel, still bullish. And I see no reason to be literally just bearish on Tesla, right? I'm not personally buying puts or anything like that. I'm just thinking risk reward up here, there's better opportunities in my opinion. But that's kind of the main thing I'm looking at right now. So we'll see how this plays out. Still a lot of time in this week to see what happens, right? And yeah, we'll see how this plays out. But again, that's just my personal view, my personal opinion. In terms of options flow, Tesla, let's take a look. You can see it actually is one of the more bearish flows today. Only 17 million, which is, it's a decent amount, but, it's nothing to get completely panicky about, in my opinion, as well. And the one thing that's also interesting is the fact that QQQ is being very weird, right? It's just 3 doji candles in a row. You don't see this like super often on QQQ where you get 3 doji candles in a row like this, right? But you can see QQQ also showing some, potential signs of being overbought, right? A little bit of a cool off wouldn't be too surprising if it comes down to retest this breakout of this trend line, which would put QQQ, let's say it happens sometime this week or something like that, or next week, closer to the 470s, right? Which from here would be a drop of only about 2% roughly, which isn't too crazy, but that wouldn't surprise me if QQQ comes back down, retests this range, turns it back into support, maybe gets like a gap fill, 21 EMA, breakout retest, one of those regions, which could also be what brings Tesla back down a little bit, maybe closer down to the mid to low 230s for that retest as well of this massive breakout that it did have. And as long as that holds and as long as Tesla's within the channel, hey, it's bullish. And for all we know, it can go even higher. Absolutely. So again, just my opinion, just the way I'm looking at it. Let me know what you think down below. But thank you all so much for watching. And I'll see you for the next one. Peace.